Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? Happy Monday. How was your weekend? I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. You already know how much I love Mondays. I feel like I say that every single Monday episode, but it's my favorite day of the week, so I feel like I can just repeat it as many times and it's okay, right? I had such an awesome weekend. I actually got to dog sit / house sit for some family friends. So I got to hang out with two little doggos all weekend. I don't have a dog at my house right now. I grew up with a little puppy, but right now I have a pet turtle. But I definitely miss, being able to cuddle with a dog. So this weekend was super nice to just be able to, hang out with dogs. I don't know. They, keep you such company. I just haven't been able to hang with, a dog for a whole weekend in, such a long time. So, yeah, and these dogs, they're so cuddly. They were so cute. They just, wanted to sleep on me the entire time. And so it was definitely a really awesome weekend. A different weekend than I'm used to having. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling extra good on this Monday because I got to hang out with my little doggos all weekend and get dog cuddles. We all know how much dog cuddles are just the best thing ever. So anyways, with that being said, I hope you also had an awesome weekend. I hope you also got to cuddle some dogs and have fun or do whatever you're doing. I hope you just had a great time. I know, our world right now, it's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit crazy. We got lots going on in our world, but that's why I'm here. That's why America's Still Beautiful podcast is here to throw away those old negative news headlines and bring you all feel-good, positive news. So you already know I got a bunch of awesome stories to share with you today. I've got some new studies. I've got some really interesting research that's been done. Some kind of funny things. I got some new statistics about Americans and their happiness. I've got just lots of fun things today. I feel like there's a lot of interesting stories that I was kind of blown away by when I was doing my research for today's episode. So I guess let's jump on this bandwagon of all positive feel-good news, and I'm going to start sharing with you all of the interesting, weird, feel-good stories that I got for you. So, but that being said, this one might be the weirdest, okay? So we all know the iconic astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Well, they have now been officially joined in the history books. And guess who were they joined in the history books by? Dramatic pause. I hope you were thinking about it there. A chicken nugget. Yes, you're probably thinking, Alyssa Jo, what the heck are you talking about? Okay, so there is literally a picture of a chicken nugget in space. Okay, so these pictures show it's what is to believe to be the first ever chicken nugget sent into space. It reached heights of more than 110,000 feet above Earth. So that's about 880,000 chicken nuggets high. Yes, you heard that correctly. So a team of experts in the field of the stratospheric exploration, they created this perfect vessel for the nugget to travel in. Why is a chicken nugget going into outer space and I'm not? Well, I don't really know, but it's quite quite interesting. So it was sent into space using a meteorological weather balloon that was filled with hydrogen that's lighter than air to carry this, tasty cargo up into the stratosphere. So using a custom designed launch vehicle, including primary avionics, auxiliary satellite tracking, and an integrated camera support system taking video footage of this chicken nugget. This lone nugget was sent up and away, all the way out of Earth's atmospheres into outer space, and there has officially been a chicken nugget floating in space. How crazy is that? So the nugget was sent starborn from a location close to the head office of the UK supermarket chain called Iceland in Deeside, North Wales. And the trading director of the chain, his name is Andrew Stainland, and he said 2020 is a huge year for us as we celebrate our 50th birthday. We want to find ways to mark the occasion, just like anyone celebrating a birthday in lockdown. So he says, what a better way to show that our products are out of this world than by sending one of our customer favorites into outer space. So there you have it. That is why a chicken nugget is in space and you and I are not in space. So he says, we're looking forward to continuing to celebrate our 50th year with customers and thanking them for their support. There is a video of this chicken nugget literally in space. Search up first chicken nugget sent into space. And you will see this video. It is ridiculous. I will have pictures posted up on our social media pages. Yes, there is a chicken nugget floating in space right now. Just think that through. I just found, see what I'm telling you? Today's episode's filled with lots of interesting, weird stories, okay? So this next one I'm going to share with you. So the Pentagon is funding ultrasound devices that prevent tissue death after spinal cord injuries. So this one is clearly not as weird as the chicken nugget in outer space, okay? This is a pretty cool story. So Johns Hopkins is busy on this ambitious development plan for a product that would protect against the tissue damage resulting from spinal cord injuries. This is especially for soldiers who get wounded in the field, but of course for the public as well. So it's a $13.5 million program. It will aim to develop implantable ultrasound devices that could revolutionize care for the 17,000 Americans who suffer spinal cord injuries every single year. The electronic device is planned to be the size and flexibility of a small Band-Aid, and it will use high-resolution ultrasound technology to help doctors monitor and treat the changes in the blood flow and prevent tissue death that occurs immediately after traumatic injury to the spinal cord. So the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, the DARPA, they are fronting the cost for the ultrasound device development to be led by its co-leaders, so Nicholas Theodore, Amur Mandowchi, and the assistant professors of neurosurgery and biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins. They say there are a few places taking a close look at how engineering approaches could improve the treatment of spinal cord injuries. I think there are tremendous opportunities here. He also says spinal cord injury disrupts the connection between brain and body, causing devastating loss of physiological function. And the money is coming by way of Bridging the Gap Plus, which hopes to remove the worst of these injuries, specifically for soldiers who are at higher risk of spinal cord injuries than civilians. So the new DARPA program combines neurotechnology, artificial intelligence, and biological sensors to promote healing at the wound site and interfacing with the nervous system at the points around the body to restore natural functions, so such as like your breathing, your bowel, bladder control, movement, touch, all that kind of stuff that can be lost when the spinal cord is damaged. So they have a 5-year plan in place that concludes, hopefully, with human trials lying at the end of it. But a press release from Johns Hopkins notes that the research and testing of this kind to bring a product like this to the market could take decades with current FDA regulations. So they say it is an extraordinary team effort to bring together the smartest engineers and neurosurgeons to solve this problem. There are very few places in the world that are able to pull together the resources we have for this project. So I guess stay tuned for more of that. It could literally take decades, but I'm sure there's going to be so much information about this. I just thought it was a really cool concept, what these researchers are doing and what a difference it can make. All right, with that being said, it's time for a little bit of a break. Don't you dare go anywhere. I've got lots more to share with you. So I got some fun stories. I got some stories about some Canadian researchers that gave homeless people $7,500 each. I've got the results for you, and it's actually super duper uplifting. You're not going to want to miss it. It's so interesting. I've also got some new studies and statistics about Americans' happiness and when they feel the happiest and the reasons why. You're not going to want to miss so many good feel-good stories I have to share with you, so don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello again, everybody. We are back from the break, and I'm here to share more feel-good, positive stories with you. If you missed the first story of today's episode, I suggest you rewind, go back, and listen to it because there is a chicken nugget flying in outer space right now, and you're going to want to know why and how and just the craziness of the whole thing. So rewind and go check that out. If you're still tuned in with me, thank you for still being here. I got lots more to share with you, so I'll jump right back into it. Now, I did mention that pretty cool research has been done by some Canadian researchers who gave homeless people $7,500 each. And the results that they got from this are actually so uplifting. So what these researchers wanted to do was challenge the stereotypes of homeless people in Canada. So this research project from a Vancouver-based charitable organization found that simply giving money to homeless people isn't as bad as an idea as some people might think. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background with this. I have been living in Vancouver for the past year. Well, currently I'm not in Vancouver at the moment, but I was living there for the past year, and the homeless problem there is pretty bad, okay? And this is so true. The stereotypes of homeless, I think everywhere in the world, but I never really experienced such, how do I say this? I guess such judgment of homeless people from just other people than I did when I was living in Vancouver, because it was so apparent. It's a really big problem in Vancouver, and, you know, there was lots of problems going in. You know, there's always news headlines of something that the homeless were doing that people weren't agreeing with, and you could talk to anyone, and everyone had this very stereotypical opinion on the homeless people. So I love that this kind of research was done, and I love that the results are more uplifting than you would think. So I'll stop rambling on. I want to give you a little bit of a background story that I totally understand the concept of this project and the concept of this research, because it's so true. It's, of course, there's stereotypes all over the world for homeless, but I really, really recognized it when I was living in Vancouver. So Anyways, with that being said, so it's called the New Leaf Project. It took 115 homeless people who were confirmed not to have serious mental or substance abuse problems, and they put $7,500 in their pockets of 50 of them to see if they could turn their life around. And these results were quite heartening. So one entire year later, most recipients still had $1,000 in savings. 67% were still feeding themselves every day. So the average age was 42 years old, with 1 in 3 participants reporting they had a child. They had been on average homeless for 6 months, with 1 in 4 employed somewhere. So this study took monthly and quarterly self-reported surveys on conditions, and many people might argue that the money would be spent irresponsibly. That was definitely the stereotype. But for example, on irresponsibly spent on drugs or alcohol, but the results of the study were really refreshing, and it was quite a refreshing perspective on the mindset of those living on the fringes of Canadian society. And if you are not from Canada and you have never been to Canada, or I'm sure you've heard of Canada, that it's cold. Okay, and Vancouver, I'm originally from Alberta, where it's really cold, or to me, I love the snow, I love the cold, it's my happy place. Vancouver was warmer, so I think that's why there is a lot more homeless there, because if you are going to be homeless in Canada, Vancouver is definitely a little bit better of a place, I guess, because it is a large city, it rains a lot, but you don't really get too many days below zero, and you don't really get too much snow. So that's why there's so many homeless that kind of navigate there or go there, right? So after a year of spending on what they judge to be important from these homeless people, an average spending on alcohol or drugs went down by 39%. This is perhaps because the individuals recognized they had a real shot of turning their money around and turning their lives around. So an impact report was done by the Foundation for Charitable Giving, and they found that the recipients moved into housing 2 months faster than those who didn't receive the $75 or $7,500 allowance. So 2 months, it might not seem like that much, but spending it on the street, it certainly will be a lot, right? So the 2-month difference also allowed emergency services previously utilized to be freed up for others as well. So the spending habits of the recipients in the study were, as you probably can imagine, more frugal than the control group of non-cash participants. So the spending was spread out over a year, 52% of it going to food and rent, 15% going to medication and transportation, and an average of about $700 on a one-time cash purchases like a bike or a computer. So the final topic of analysis is that handing out $7,500 to homeless people actually saved the state of British Columbia an average of $600 per person compared to spending for a year of their emergency services. So, that's pretty cool, right? So one of the reports, it says, by spending fewer nights in shelters, the cash group saved the shelter system approximately $8,100 per person for a total of roughly $405,000 over 1 year, and factoring in the cost of the cash transfer, there's a savings of about $600 per person for society. And cash transfers provide choice, control, and purchasing power at a critical time in people's lives. They say that this is not merely a gesture of help, it is a signal that society believes in them, which I think is just obviously the most uplifting thing you can do. So they're saying by preventing people from becoming entrenched as homeless, NLP transforms lives while saving community resources that could be better spent somewhere else. So one of the New Leaf Project recipients mentioned that the money gave them the hope and foundation they needed to have the courage to try and turn their life around. And another said he was able to take a course in computers that put him on his dream career path of being a community counselor for those with substance addictions. A lot of the time, all these people need is just someone to believe in them. you know, and it's just that little bit of inspiration, that little bit of motivation, that extra push that gets them going when someone just believes in them a little bit deeper. So I think that is so cool. I loved this story. I love this research project. It hits home for me since I was living in Vancouver, and it was definitely home for me. I had so many great memories, and I do remember so many, you know, stereotypical opinions on the homeless. So this is super uplifting story for me. So I hope it was uplifting as well for you. I love when researchers do these types of things. Now, with that being said, I have another really, really cool story about this young girl. She's not just your ordinary 14-year-old girl. Her name is Jordan Reeves. She has inspired millions of people with her extraordinary superpower. Yes, she has a superpower. So this young inventor, she's from Columbia, Missouri. She was born with a left arm that stopped developing beyond the elbow. So although some people would look at her kind of as an underdeveloped limb, as just a disability, Jordan decided to use her condition to launch her superhero alter ego. So when she was 10 years old, Jordan attended a STEM workshop that encouraged kids with disabilities to think creatively about their condition. So this is when she got a 3D printer at her disposal. She designed her own prosthetic arm that could shoot glitter from the tip. I'm not kidding you. She's literally shooting glitter from her arm. It is so cool. So her invention was so dazzlingly successful that she actually went to talk about her they call it Project Unicorn because it's like a horn-shaped prosthetic design. She talked about it on the TEDx stage. She talked about it on Shark Tank and even the Rachel Ray show. And with each appearance, she hoped that the Project Unicorn would encourage other kids to view disabilities as gifts rather than, you know, a downer, as rather than hindrances. So as Project Unicorn gained more traction, Jordan and her mother turned their labor of love into the Born Just Right. It's a nonprofit, so they could continue advocating for all these people. So in addition to publishing a book about her experiences, that came out in 2019, Jordan and her prosthetic were featured on one episode of the Marvel Superhero Project. And then just earlier this week, she was featured on a new Lego documentary that interviews young change makers from across North America. So all of the kids that were featured on the Rebuild the World video series were asked to showcase their unique brand of brick building creativity by contributing their own Lego creation to a massive 13-foot globe. So more than 430 children from 30 different countries contributed to the installation, which is made up of a whopping 350,000 bricks. And not only that, the documentary series was produced by kids. How cool is that? So, you know, if you can actually go on to the Lego website and see this project and get some more information, if that inspires you or gets you excited, because there's so many cool stories. Yeah, so go check that out. It is time for another break, but when we get back, I'm going to end today's episode with lots more feel-good stories. You already know, so don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
stretch of GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. Hello. Okay, so this next little bit is definitely going to be for all you animal lovers out there. I got some pretty cool new studies, research that's come out to do with, our favorite animals, cats and dogs. So with that being said, there has been this new study that reveals a dog's heart rate actually increases when their owner simply says, "I love you." So if you've ever wondered what your dog was thinking when you say "I love you," it actually does make their heart race. I love stumbling upon this article when I was doing the research for today's episode, since I did get to hang out with two doggos all weekend, and I just constantly was like, "I love you so much." And then I read this article and I was like, "Aw, I made a difference in their weekend too." Anyways, let me go into this. Okay, so as we know, puppy love is joyful. It's an amazing feeling. It's an emotion that has no strings or reservations. A dog's love is most often unconditional. It's the best kind of love, right? So when a dog licks your face and jumps into your lap or barks, and when you come through the front door, it simply means that they're crazy about you. They're excited, they're so happy you're there. But did you know that the dog's heartbeat actually soars when you tell them, "I love you"? So according to this recent study that was conducted by some people at Canine Cottages, they're saying that yes, the dog's heart rate does increase when you say that. So after equipping a quartet of test puppies with heart rate monitors, the dogs were guided through a series of scenarios over the course of 7 days to see how they react to a variety of stimuli. And the tracking data revealed that 4 dogs averaged a resting heart rate of 67 beats per minute. And when owners said "I love you" to their pets, the doggo's heart rate shot to 98 beats per minute. So that's a 46.2% increase. So while your dog perks up to the tune of a 10.4% heart rate jump just for setting eyes on you, some activities actually had a calming effect on the dogs. So quality couch time cuddling resulted in a 22.7% decrease in canine heart rates. So while it's certainly not the most scientifically exhaustive study ever conducted, the conclusions, it's just so cool. Like, who are we to argue about the bond between, humans and their puppies? Love is love, after all. So now, with that being said, I'm going to switch to a lot of other people's favorite animal, the cat. Now, a team of psychologists at the University of Sussex and Portsmouth, they have perfected the art of building a bond with cats. So this new study, the role of cat eye narrowing movements in cat-human communication, it was just published in the Nature journal Scientific Reports. It's shown for the first time that it is possible to build rapport with a feline by using an eye narrowing technique with them. So, this eye narrowing action by humans generates something popularly known as a cat smile, or the slow blink. If you might have heard it might be called that, you might have heard. And it seems to make the human more attractive to the cat. So, eye narrowing movements in cats have some parallels with the genuine smile in humans, as well as eye narrowing movements given in positive situations in some other species as well. So, this team that was led by Dr. Tasman Humphrey and Professor Karen McCobb, who is an animal behavior scientist at the University of Sussex, they undertook 2 experiments. So, the first revealed that cats are more likely to slow blink at their owners after their owners have slow blinked at them, compared to when they don't interact at all. And then the second experiment, this time with a researcher from the psychology team, found that the cats were more likely to approach the experimenter's outstretched hand after they slow blinked at the cat, compared to when they had adopted a neutral expression. So taken together, the study shows that this slow blinking technique can provide a form of positive communication between cats and humans. So this adds context to existing studies on cat psychology that have found that cats have been shown to attract and manipulate human attention effectively through purring. And then secondly, the cats can discriminate their name from the others or from other words, even when unfamiliar humans are calling. So cats may be sensitive to human emotional cues and will rub or butt their head against an owner who feels sad. I have definitely experienced this with my cat before. I'm sure you have too if you have a cat, when they just like butt you with their head and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, I know you're trying to be nice and this is kind of cute, but it's just kind of weird that you're showing love that way. Cats are so interesting. So Professor Karen McComb from the School of Psychology at the University of Sussex, she supervised the work, and she said, as someone who has both studied animal behavior and is a cat owner, it's great to be able to show that cats and humans can communicate in this way. It's something that many cat owners had already suspected, so it's exciting to have found evidence for it. She says that this study is the first to experimentally investigate the role of slow blinking in cat-human communication, and it is something you can try yourself with your own cat at home. My cat is actually literally sitting here beside me, staring me down at the moment. So as soon as I am done recording this podcast, I'm going to go try this out with my cat. So I hope you try this new study, this new bonding technique with your cat as well. I'm so curious to see kind of what happens. All right, now it's the last story of today's episode, and I thought I would share this survey that came out that studied some Americans, and they are saying that Americans are happier in autumn than any other season, and there's 20 top reasons why. So 56% of Americans say that they're happier in autumn, okay? From baking pies to carving pumpkins, this new survey said that they are happier in autumn compared to any other season. So, whether it's kind of walking in the crisp air, surrounded by orange and red maple trees, enjoying special food and drinks, it's pumpkin spice season. So 2,000 Americans were polled for this survey. There's lots of different reasons of why people say that they love autumn. So I'm going to give you the top 20 reasons and the percentage of them. And I guess due to the pandemic, 68% of the respondents are planning more quiet indoor activities this year than in previous years, and 31% report they've been unable to participate in all the things that they would normally do, with some of those things just being unavailable due to the pandemic. So let me list the top 20 fall favorites of Americans, and then maybe, this will kind of cue something in your head and you're going to want to go indulge in all of these autumn festivities to put a smile on your face. So number 1 is watching the leaves change color, 51%, the chill air, 45%, drinking hot cocoa, 44%, I definitely love that, getting ready for the holidays, 40%, making homemade soup, 40%, beginning to cook holiday foods, 35%, watching Halloween movies, 35%, wearing big sweaters, 35%. I relate to that one. I love this season just because I get to wear giant sweaters and no one can judge me. Listening to the sound of rain on my roof, 34%. Lighting seasonal candles, 33%. I also adore that one. Baking pies, 31%. Having cinnamon apple food and drinks, 31%. Making pumpkin pie, 31%. Having pumpkin spice food and drinks, 30%. Drinking hot apple cider, 29%, carving pumpkins, 29%, wearing chunky socks and boots, 29%, also relate to that one, stepping on crunchy leaves, that's always satisfying, 28%, wearing plaid and flannels, 28%, and baking pumpkin bread, 28%. So there you go. Those are the top 20 reasons why Americans are happier in autumn than any other season. Michael Turney, who is the founder of Stuff Puffs, who put on this poll, says, many respondents are adapting to this year's unusual circumstances. It's a great opportunity to introduce new traditions, whether that's watching a scary movie every Friday or a virtual bake-off on the weekends. It's definitely a strange year. 2020 has been something that I'm sure none of us will will forget. But there are so many of these activities. That's why I wanted to read you this list, because all of these activities I feel like we can still do right now. And it is obviously proven that these activities put a smile on our face and boost our mood. So if you're still kind of feeling like a little bit of a COVID slump, I suggest, indulging in some autumn activities, baking pies, wearing large sweaters, listening to the sound of rain, watching your favorite holiday movies, already getting ready for the holidays. I know I'm already excited for Christmas. So yeah, just indulge in all those autumn things, because it is said to make you happier, and we could all use a big smile on our face in this crazy 2020 year. All right, though, that is all of the feel-good, positive stories that I have to share with you today. As always, I so appreciate you being here. So thank you so much for listening to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Thank you. As always, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. I have new episodes out every single Monday and Thursday. So if you don't want to indulge in any autumn activities to put a smile on your face, tune in on Mondays and Thursdays, because I will be back with all positive, feel-good news headlines, which we all need to throw away those negative ones. Focus on the good sometimes. So Mondays and Thursdays, hit that subscribe button so you are notified. Don't forget to head over to our social media pages. I do update those regularly. So make sure you like and follow those pages, just so I know that you are enjoying the posts that I am making. We got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then don't forget to leave a 5-star review. If you try any of these autumn activities, I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear how your cat is bonding with you, how your dog's heart rate is increasing when you say I love you, all those good things. So don't forget to leave a review or engage with me on social media. I would love to connect. So thank you. Stay happy, stay positive, and you already know, spread kindness every single chance that you get. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.